They'll throw three left-handed pitchers, two of them very young pitchers who actually have shown some promise. But it's still there for the Royals, and that's definitely what Matt Quattro, after the game, wanted to emphasize. But he certainly had to be realistic about the negatives as well.
I don't know what level to put on it. Every guy in there is frustrated, right? You come here to win, and we make that our goal every single day. We know that's our main focus when we show up to the yard every day. And I know how focused they are. I know how attentive they are to the details and their preparation, and just not happening. It's really disappointing we've prided ourselves and done such a good job of playing at home in front of our fans, and it couldn't have been a worse homestand results-wise. But I can't say this is the level of frustration. It's all the same. We still have right in front of us an opportunity to get into the playoffs. We just have to figure out a way to win the games.
With runners in scoring position, that's been such a liability lately. What's the key to that? And is it different mentally in some way than just hitting?
Different than just hitting?
Yeah,
clearly when you're not scoring runs, people tend to think I need to drive this run in instead of just putting a good swing on the ball. Now, some of them are good swings that you don't get results, and then sometimes that causes it to spiral a little bit more. But, we got to put ourselves in more opportunities to do it. It's also not the only opportunity you have to score. You can drive in a guy from first with a double. There's plenty of ways to score runs, which early in the year when we were driving a lot of guys in with guys in scoring position, there wasn't one answer for why we were accomplishing that either. It is a very volatile statistic, but something that's easy to focus on, but there are a lot of other factors in the course of the game as well.
So you can get a sense that maybe they're pressing a little bit right now?
No, I know that's what everybody wants me to say, is that they're pressing. But what is pressing? That's not an easily definable thing, right? We want to win. We understand that that's their main goal. They understand where we are in the season. Some guys might be trying a little harder. That's unavoidable at this point, right? It's just one of the factors that guys have to put behind them and understand that the opportunity is just to focus on the pitch that they're in at that at-bat.
How difficult was it to pick up Blake Snell early when he's mixing the fastball with his curveball?
Blake Snell's a really good pitcher. He's got plus command of his fastball. He's throwing 22 inches of carry at 97 miles an hour. That's an elite fastball with an elite breaking ball. We knew coming into this game that he was going to be an extremely tough matchup, and he was.
What do you say to the team to make sure that they keep believing, though, that there's 6 games left?
Just that. Believe, man. Believe. We didn't come this far to pack it in, right? It's one of those things where it's an easy narrative to say, well, it was a bad week, right? But so what? We got another week, and it can be a good week, but we have to attack it one day at a time. You can't look forward to next weekend or trying to get into the playoffs. You got to win the game in front of you, and that's what these guys have focused on all year. It's not happening right now, but that doesn't mean it can't happen on Tuesday.
They intentionally walked Bobby to load the bases for Salvi. What goes through your mind there?
That was going to be a big moment for Salvi. I thought this was meant to be. I thought he's come through in this spot a million times in front of these fans, and I was excited.
Does that kind of sum up how your offense is going right now, though, when they're walking, Bobby, and it's...
I think every team in the league would have walked Bobby in that situation, whether we were going good or not. I think everybody would have done the same thing.
For Seth Lugo to bounce back from that second inning, and then retire his last 16, how important was that just to hold it right there for a chance for your offense to potentially come?
Yeah, extremely. That's we expect that of him. He set the expectations that high for himself. They put a good swing. McCray put a good swing on that fastball up. And then unfortunately the 2-strike breaking ball that fell in left field for the 2 runs. But his command was impeccable today. His stuff was really good. You go out there and give you 7 strong on 2 runs is really impressive.
He responded really well with a quick third inning too. I think that was like 6 or 7 pitches there. What does that do to set him up for later in the game?
Yeah, there were at least 2 innings that were very low pitch count. Arguably he could have gone back out for the 8th, but the weather today, the coolness in the air and all that, he was not laboring at all. You know, he gave up a couple tough hits.
So much of all this has been about process or success to this point. Is there ever a place where either data or emotion says have to do something different than the process just to change things up?
I'm not exactly sure what you mean. Like,
Things that, I don't know, to break out of the norm.
yeah, I mean, we're open. I mean, we tried to steal Robbie Grossman. That's outside the norm. But we didn't have a whole lot of opportunities to make things happen. I mean, I know a lot of times people like to point to, oh, you need to bunt or you need to hit and run or whatever the case is. Well, one, you got to get guys on. Two, you have to be able to have someone that you can get a bunt down with and someone that's you can bunt against as an opposing pitcher. And then once you bunt the guy up, somebody still has to drive him in. So you can try all these kinds of things, but in my mind, we've tried some different things, lineup construction, all those kinds of things. So, but at the end of the day, you get to go out and produce, and that's what the players understand. And I mean, ultimately, that's on me. I'm not passing the buck on that, but we have to understand that it's not as easy as, oh, just try something else. I mean, there's guys on the other side that are trying equally as hard.
Kind of following up on that, in the postseason, you see managerial strategies change quite a bit. Now, these are almost playoff games now. Would you be treating them any differently than you would a game a month ago?
Well, I mean, I think
Strategy is concerned, keep pulling a pitcher or whatever.
I mean, I think we have. I mean, we've used relievers at different points in the game. We've gone to the bullpen earlier. You know, like I said, we've bunted. We've tried to steal guys that never steal. I mean, there's things that we're attempting to do. At the end of the day, teams look flat. It's an easy target if you're not scoring runs to try to find ways. Or, well, we need to do this. We need to do that. It's an easy target at that point, but it's not a game that you can just reinvent on the fly.
Day off today for the Royals. They've got to be, you heard Matt Quattoro. He's trying to say that they maybe aren't pressing, but I think he knows that they are. Maybe they'll start to score some runs against some lesser pitching in the Washington Nationals. Day off today, 3 games against the Nationals. It's all East Coast baseball the rest of the way. Then the Atlanta Braves to conclude. The Royals have the tiebreaker against the Detroit Tigers. They don't have it against the Minnesota Twins. The 3-way tiebreaker basically plays out with if 3 teams are tied. Minnesota, I believe in Seattle out of this. Minnesota is the top one. The Royals are second, and the Tigers are third in a 3-way tie, if that would happen. So the Royals got an opportunity there too, but they've got to win some games. I would say now, before you just have to say, hey, they got to win, half their games and they'll be just great. Half the games probably wouldn't do it now. And the Royals need to win some games, and they need to do it now. Well, there's a lot of teams that basically aren't considering winning or losing now. We've boiled things down to a pretty great extent in baseball as we take a quick tour around the major leagues. Yankees have clinched a playoff spot, and they basically are going to clinch the American League East, I think, whenever they next play. The Orioles have played lackluster ball for a long, long time now, and actually they have kind of allowed the possibility that somebody can catch them for the top wild card, but that probably won't happen. They're still 16 games over 500. Red Sox at 500, Rays at 500, so I guess in the last week they have something to play for, and the Rays are bringing up the rear. The Guardians have done a great job of getting the ship righted. They lost a couple games over the weekend, but they have already clinched the American League Central. That team has exceeded expectations all year long, and every time they've been doubted, they've bounced back and won some games, so much credit to them. And, of course, the Royals are in second, and the Tigers are tied with them. And the Twins, who have been disastrous, they've been just awful for quite a long time, a longer time than the Royals, but they still have the opportunities lying in front of them. And the White Sox are going to be baseball's worst modern team. They tied the record yesterday of 120 losses by the New York Mets. Can't imagine they're going to win all the games this week. So the Chicago White Sox of 2024, your modern bottom feeder in all of Major League Baseball history. Houston Astros are about to clinch the American League West, not quite to the pole yet, but a 5-game lead over the Mariners. The defending champion Texas Rangers, we've seen quite a few defending champions not make the playoffs the next year over the last 20 years, and it's going to happen again. The Oakland Athletics will play out their final week as Oakland Athletics. They'll be in Sacramento next year, but they've actually shown some promise that they can be an up-and-coming young team when they play in California's capital next year. It'll be a small stadium. It'll be interesting to watch some games there as well, and the Angels are pretty much a dumpster fire right now. Phillies are ruling the National League East. They have clinched a playoff spot, but not quite the East yet. The battle is for the wild card spot, and the New York Mets, who have gone 58-32 in the last 3 months after being 12 games under 500, are now in that playoff spot, 2 games ahead of the Braves, and the Diamondbacks also have slipped enough so that that's a little mixed there. So the possibility for the final wild card, the Padres have the first one sewed up, and the Brewers have the Central sewed up. So lots of things that have not been decided yet, but many things that have as far as Major League Baseball is concerned. But the concern right now is the Royals winning a few games and getting an unlikely playoff berth, and who knows, maybe they'll play. If they play more home baseball this year after concluding the home season yesterday, then that will be an unbelievable story because they will have won their wild card series. There'll be no playoffs in MLS for Sporting Kansas City. They were eliminated in a disappointing 2-0 loss to Minnesota. There was a long rain delay in that particular game. Peter Vermes was pretty terse after the game, didn't really want to talk about it. Sporting really probably did outplay Minnesota in the game, but they lost 2-0 with a couple of defensive mistakes. But now their 2024 can be rescued, although it's unlikely duty to go to LAFC on Wednesday and win the U.S. Open Cup. But they do have that opportunity for Peter Vermes to bring home some more hardware in what has been a very disappointing season for Sporting Kansas City. Not so for the Kansas City Current. They've been a cool story all summer long. They are now 4th in the NWSL, but they beat the second-place team last Friday night 3-0. They've been an exciting team, a team that scores a lot of goals, and they should be a real factor when the NWSL playoffs start. Speaking of playoffs, I mean, time after time this year, Rory McIlroy has put on a good show and been a bridesmaid, and that's not Rory McIlroy-like, and he obviously kind of gave away the U.S. Open. He's finished second in a bunch of tournaments, and he does it again. He had the opportunity on the easy 18th hole at the DP World Tour's biggest prize, the BMW Championship in London. It's a pretty easy hole. He didn't birdie it, so Billy Horschel got in a playoff him along with Tristan Lawrence. Lawrence was eliminated on the first hole, and Billy Horschel won that tournament. He likes to go over to Europe, and he's won this flagship event now twice by beating Rory McIlroy in a playoff, as McIlroy unable to get it done again. Just more disappointment for him in what in many ways has been a fabulously consistent season. He's been in contention over and over again, be it in America or over in Europe, and just hasn't been able to get the job done. And we've got team golf this week. That is always fun. The President's Cup, of course, the U.S. usually wins this one. They don't ever win the Ryder Cup, or they don't seem to ever win it. Of course, they do occasionally. But the Ryder Cup has not been kind to them. The President's Cup has. The international team has only won one time. But I think the squads are somewhat, maybe not quite even, but this should be a tight affair. And with 3 Canadians at Royal Montreal on the international team, it should be a big-time home advantage for the international team. It's a beautiful golf course to watch. It'll be fun competition. Love team golf, so we'll get a dose of that this week with the President's Cup. No, it's not quite the Ryder Cup, but it's pretty good stuff if you like golf. Well, it's sure not a golfy day today. Rainy and cool. Fall is officially here on the calendar, and maybe it is really here. But it's all that means is more football, playoff baseball, and a whole lot more to come. And we'll be mapping it all. I'm headed on vacation here over the starting on Thursday, but we'll be here this week with all the podcasts, and we won't miss a beat. There might be a couple ones that are a little bit short, but anyway, I'm headed to a high school reunion. That should be a blast. Always a pleasure to bring you all the sports information, music this week, a great profile, and all the stuff you expect from the Reasonably Irreverent podcast. So, on a Monday, let's hope for a little sunshine soon, and have a great day.
We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Klingscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new. This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture with 8 convenient